I can give you 432 reasons why you should drive a Geo. That's the cheap stuff today. Okay, just getting these brakes done. Put some anti-seize on the threads for the lug nuts to keep those nice and happy. And I got the brand new brake pads installed in there. These rotors are turned, they look nice and perfect. And gonna move on to the back brakes. Already got those apart. I don't know if this will zoom in, but the shoes are worn down, so we're gonna put some new ones on there, of course. And pounding in some new wheel bearings. I've got the drum over here, and just getting ready to press the bearings out and put some new ones in. And we'll get back to this and update it in just a few minutes. Alright, I'm just pounding the wheel bearings out of these drums. I already got the front wheel bearings on the car changed, and just getting ready to put some brand new ones in here. And to turn the drums, you got to take the wheel bearings out. You could take them out and put them back in, but I just throw them away. It's 50 bucks a wheel, but it's worth it in the long run. Alright, I'm going to shut this off because they're turning some equipment on and you won't be able to hear me. Oh, finally they turned all the noise off. Let me show you how easy it is to take these wheel bearings out if I can do it with... You know what, let me set the camera here. And you'll probably, if I set it up just right, give me a second to get the camera here, you should see the wheel bearing fall out the bottom, I would think. And just as simple as I use a driver. And if that was a good wheel bearing, it still would be good. I didn't damage it. It just happens that this one's a little noisy. It doesn't, it's a piece of crap, to be honest with you. So that's garbage, and that's the inner and outer, and I'll put it on the brake lathe now. I'll turn the drums, put the new shoes in it, pound the new wheel bearings in it, and basically a Geo just drags the ass end of the car around, so now the back of the drivetrain will be brand new. Alright, just starting to turn the drums. Here's a little trick for you guys doing brakes on your own Geo. On the rear drums, always, when you take them to Napa or whatnot, always make sure you tell them that you want the drum to be attached to the machine. This is the outside edge. On the first lip, it's the thick part here. You can see my aluminum piece goes right to it. If not, they will use a small thing like this, and it fits right over the top of the wheel bearing and tighten it up. It will allow that drum to not be absolutely perfect. It'll cut perfect on their machine, but when you put it on the car, the surface won't be perfect. And that's going to make that pedal fall. Alright, here we go. Sometimes you can see what I'm doing there. Working my way in, Alright. That's the happy place to start. Now turn the auto feed on. What you saw me do is the brake shoe only fits about 3/4 of the drum, so the brake shoe is smaller than the drum area. So what I've done is I went all the way back to where the factory machine or casting or whatnot is done, and I'm going to pull it through just perfectly. A lot of times when you go to the parts store, all they do is cut where they see the shiny spot where the shoe is, but it'll get you a ridge in there. I like to pull them through so they're like brand new when you're done. This is pretty standard for a Geo for brakes. These are original. See, the shoes just wore out. The drums were still in good shape. There's just a smidge of material left on them. You almost hardly use the rear brakes at all on a Geo. It's almost all stopped by the front, so they last 15 years. And then you can see the wheel cylinders. That's why I always do the wheel cylinders on them. And brake shoes, a new hardware kit, and then the trailing edge shoe. It's like brand new. That's probably like 50% wore out, but the car only stops on the front leading shoe. I imagine on the back you really have to be anchored in. In fact, this is probably more from the emergency brake than that one's when you're cruising down the road, kind of anchor on the brakes. Fairly hard. I would say like if you're at 60 and you were slowing to 40 fairly quickly. Pop around to the other side, I'll show you what I mean. The trailing shoe still looks like there's 50% of the material left, and we're just down. So these brakes were nice and even and whatnot. So with new shoes, new wheel bearings, you know, and that's why I changed the front axle bearings and as well. They're just all wore out a little bit, and it's just it's, you know, the idea is to go another 15 years, and that's a real serious number. You should get, realistically, I just had one of the guys that I did a car for. He just sent me an email. He goes, "I'm still trying to get that Magic 50 because that's a tough one. You really got to drive really well for it." But he goes, "God, I'm getting 47 every time." You know, so that's what you're after. Alright, that's all complete. Everything's anti-seize. The new shoes are on. I just put a wheel bearing or a wheel cylinder kit in here, and time to paint it so it can't corrode or rust. Remember, you're not going to need these again for 15 years. And this is just a little anti-rust. I'm not getting it on the shoes, but if you did, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And I'm off to do the other side. Alright, and that's one side. That's what it looks like when it's brand new, ready to go. Anti-seize, dust caps on, drums painted, hardware's painted, adjusters rotated up. First time you pull the emergency brake up, the rear brakes adjust up perfectly. And yeah, I love it when they look good. Alright, I meant to shoot a video when I had this wheel cylinder apart, putting this kit in here. But when you get the spring put back, well, I should just pop it apart and show you. Hold on a sec, let me take this thing back apart. There we go. So, when you're doing this, the trick is to make sure that you get the spring back in there centered. You kind of feel it with your finger. That's got a little tit on the end of it. You put that in the spring, and then like that, little wiggle, and you know it's in right when it pushes the other side over. Let me show you. Get a little shove out. Put the rubber boot back on right there. Center them. Turn them into position so they're lined up where the shoe's going to fit. Oh, all the noise around here. And is that a horn or a hoist, guys? And that. And of course, you're ready for anti-seize. Don't put on any anti-seize until you're done with it, because it's slippery as heck. And now with those new rubber boots and stuff in there, you should be good for 100 years. The only reason I have to service these is because the brake fluid on this car wasn't changed every 2 years like you're supposed to, and it built up some water, so I had to run a hose through it and clean it. You'll bleed the brakes on your car one time every couple of years. Probably never have to change a wheel cylinder or a caliper ever again. Alright, I just want to show this exhaust system. Somebody's put a test pipe in here, taking the catalytic converter out. But they gave me the cat, which is still brand new. I'm going to put that back in. And the rest of the exhaust system is, well, it's dirty, but it's basically brand new. Very nice. I would think that exhaust is probably put on in the last 6 months or so. Maybe a year at the most. Okay, it's starting to flush the brake fluid out. I've already taken this bleeder out, but I'm going to take it out and show you what I did. This will help you later. Put anti-seize on it, and now I've got brake fluid on it, so I'm not going to touch it, but blow through it and make sure that that hole in the end flows. Sometimes you have to take a pin and clean them out. Put some anti-seize on there, thread it back in, and then I'm just going to let this drip, which I'm okay with for right now because I'm flushing the fluid through. And then do the same thing to all the wheels. Really important, every 2 years. Alright, just got back from the tire shop with the brand new tires on it. It's a good time to show them off there. Alright, I got the engine out of the car and just getting ready to disassemble it. Get some rings put in it, get a clutch kit put on it, and a valve job on it. I'm just going to switch heads though, I've already got a head that's built. Alright, just put the new stainless valves in if anybody's interested what a valve looks like. That's it, that's a brand new stainless one. When you buy them, they just come, there's a brand new one in there I haven't opened up yet. They just come in a paper, it's being airtight paper, but, so they, well, they're stainless, they don't rust, but they probably package steel ones in them too. It's some special paper, you can feel a difference in it. Anyhow, they come two to a box, and I'm going to get this head tore apart that I've got going on right here, and get it all ground up and get them installed. Alrighty, I'm just getting the head put back together. Got some pre-lube on the cam lobes. Getting ready to install the thermostat. Pulling some parts out here, stuffing the clutch kit in it. I've got a short day today, so I've got to probably won't spend as much time doing camera work as I normally do, talking to myself. I guess I got a bunch of parts. I don't have any of these parts out of the box, or I'd show you all what they look like in case you've never seen them. But got a clutch cover, a pressure plate cover, throwout bearing, clutch disc. As you can see, these are all the factory OEM parts. Dakin makes the pressure plates for them. Anson makes the clutch disc, and then Koyo makes the throwout bearing. I use GMB water pumps. And what else do I got laying out here that's going on? Those are the rod bearings, the rings, factory NPR rings, the very best. New thermostat, in fact new stainless steel thermostat, spark plugs, timing belt, plug wires, cap and rotor laying around here somewhere, drive belt, I don't know, I got parts laying all over the place. I'm going to get this all stuffed together and get it running and shoot a video and move on. Busy day. Alright, it just fired up. It's been running for, maybe a whole minute, if I can still touch the exhaust. I'm just waiting for the thermostat to open in a few minutes, getting some antifreeze in it. Runs just perfect. On fast idle right now. Pretty damn smooth for a Geo. We'll get a compression check done here in a little bit. And yeah, I just gotta warm it up. I always like to shoot a little video when they first fire up. Just like magic. It's like a license to put British Petroleum right out of business. Okay, I just got the motor back together, fired it up, ran it for about 15-20 minutes. It's still, oh, I got rubber gloves on, not a good idea to touch the exhaust. It's still hot. What I'm going to do is run a quick compression check on it, and we're looking for on a brand new set of rings. About 165, 175 pounds is perfect. And then when they seat in, they rise up to close to that 200 pound mark where they were brand new. If you don't have 165, 175 pounds of compression, you just can't get close. If you're that person that really is driving on the freeway at 50, 55 miles an hour, trying to get 50 miles to the gallon, it's impossible unless you have the compression. You have to have that explosion to have the right amount of push to burn that amount of fuel up efficiently. If it's got 150 pounds, it's junk. Read the owner's manual. 150 pounds, redo the motor. A couple hundred pounds, it's like brand new. You gotta have that high compression. It's a 10-to-1 engine right from the factory. It's not your beat up old Chevy truck. I know it's a little Geo 3-cylinder, but it is one of the most high performance designs that there ever was for a single overhead cam. It's a cross flow. The intake draws in the fresh air and blows it through the head, out the exhaust. Most cars come in and out on the same side. It's overhead cam. That's a huge bonus. Which everything is now, but when you start to compare it to old school stuff like your Chevy pickup truck, or where it doesn't have a overhead cam, it's got little push rods and stuff. So it's a real efficient motor. You got to keep that compression up. And if you lose 20% on the compression, you lose 20% of the fuel economy. So I get people that email me. Let's say I'm getting 47, 50 miles a gallon all the time, consistently. And I know if they took some driving classes for hypermileaging, which is what they call it when you try to get more gas mileage just from driving technique, I know those people could instantly pick up 10 to 15 miles a gallon in a Geo because I do it. I can take a trip and run from up here in Washington to say like Portland, and I can really get 65 miles a gallon. Oh, something I should show you on this one? This is a very cool engine. These cars are far and few between. This is a factory-built Canadian one, and because there's the Canadian, there's the Japanese, multiple plants built Geo Metros. There's no factory EGR on this system. Nothing to plug up. This is the ideal, lightest vehicle Geo ever made. The 89, 90, 91s. I think they did this in Canada all the way to 93, but I'm not sure of it. But no EGR system on it. Nothing. There's not a Geo that gets better